It's Kentucky Oaks Day. Let's cap the card. Hi, everyone. Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, and welcome to a very special edition of Capping the Card, where I'm going to go with a very special guest, race 1 through 13 for Kentucky Oaks Day, and I'm going to give you my top pick and my top value play, along with my special guest who will give you their top pick and top value play as well. Before we get started, I want to remind you to press that like and subscribe button to NYRA Bets YouTube today. Subscribing is entirely free of cost, just notifies you when new videos drop on the channel, whether those are full card analyses like this, race previews, handicapping and betting tutorials, weekly programs, specialty content around the Derby, Oaks, Triple Crown, Saratoga, Breeders' Cup, and so much more. So press that like and subscribe button today. Additionally, we have a great promo on NYRA Bets right now. If you sign up today, you have a $200 deposit match bonus if you use the code DERBY25. In addition to that deposit match bonus, you also get a free $25 instantly deposited into your account that you can use on any wager, maybe one of these value plays that I like. Listen, when we go through capping the card, the premise is very straightforward. Race 1 through 13, top pick, top value play. Top pick is pretty self-explanatory. Top value play, sometimes it's a long shot that myself or my guest in this case might think is going to be good enough to win the race. Other times it's a horse we just think maybe is going to outrun their odds. Maybe a horse that can run up into the exacta, trifecta, make those vertical wagers a little bit more valuable. We'll always call that out when we see it. Well, like I said, I've teased the fact that I have a special guest. You probably can figure out who it's going to be already, because if it's talking Kentucky Oaks Day, then I feel like I have to bring on my very special friend and my colleague, Kaylie Shapiro, who has been doing such a great job covering the Kentucky Oaks for us on NYRA Bets. Kaylie, thank you for coming on and making your debut on Capping the Card.
Surprise, it's just me, but very happy to be here for Capping the Card. Obviously never joined you before for one, and I guess no better time than Kentucky Oaks Day. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, my pleasure. You know the format. You've watched this show before, and you followed it to a T in terms of my instructions. You got your top pick, your top value play for all 13 races. It's fun because, I just found out what your picks were just a couple of minutes before we started this show. And in some cases, we had some overlap, and in some cases, we had some pretty big divergence. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about where we differ, where we see things the same, and why. So listen, with that being said, it's a really fun card, Kentucky Oaks Day. Listen, you got some big names: Fierceness, Locked, Thorpedo, Anna, all running on the undercard. So there's a lot of big names. And in addition to, obviously, the great racing that's going to take place in the Kentucky Oaks, some great turf races. She Feels Pretty comes back for Cherie DeVoe. So some really great action all throughout the day. But listen, let's dive right in. And the way we do it is we dive right into a $125,000 optional claimer for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a 16th on the dirt. And it's interesting. We opened up the program for this Oaks Day, and the very first horse listed was a horse that was on the Oaks Trail, who is your top pick, number 1, Anonima, for Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez Jr. Horses 3-1. Talk a little bit about your top pick, and then we'll get to your value play, who also is mine.
Yeah, I guess I kind of had to pick her a little bit. She's an excellent horse, but not really. I mean, the last time that she's been, in this class level, she won. So she returns back to that level today, same distance, and she has good enough speed, I think, to break well out of the one hole, and also should that she can get the distance as well. So, I thought it was a good opportunity to play against the favorite, and obviously she's been facing a different level of class. So
she has indeed, and one of the big things with Anonima that I certainly took a long look at, is going to be on my early pick 5 ticket for sure, is the fact that she's getting Lasix back on.
Right.
And that's always been a big deal that you and I talk about with a lot of these Kenny McPeak horses. When they switch off Lasix, you go, a lot of times his horses, if they never run with Lasix, they're good to go. But when they start with Lasix and then switch off, they usually don't have the greatest results. But when they switch back on, you tend to see them return to form. I ultimately went with my top pick to the number 3, Shred the Gnar, who is for Brian Lynch with Louis Saez up. Louis Saez is absolutely on fire at Churchill Downs early in this meet, winning 38% of his mounts in the early stages. This one is coming off a maiden-breaking victory last time out at Gulfstream Park, going a mile. Should appreciate going a little bit longer. You got that Bernardini influence underneath. And quite frankly, this one's really the speed of the speed and should have things its own way up front. There's not a lot of other pace in this race. And so, yeah, Anonima absolutely could break well from that inside rail. But you look at a horse like Shred the Gnar, and you figure this horse is going to get out up front. I love to see the progression this horse showed between first and second start. Now Brian stepping this one up has been working out nicely at Churchill Downs leading up to this race. So at 5-2, I know it's a short price, but I'm going to be playing against the 2-1 favorite Chasen for trainer Brad Cox. That one's coming off a fourth place effort in the Silver Bullet Day. It hasn't been seen since January. It is a Juddmonte homebred, certainly very dangerous horse who's been training well. But again, going to try to take a little bit of a shot with a horse that I think is just going to get the trip up front. But listen, let's talk about a value play in this race, and we share one, and that is the number 5, Sierra, not Leone. No, Sierra November. That's the horse at 8-1. We're not getting 8-1 on Sierra Leone in this race. 8-1 on Sierra November. Trainer Joe Sharp by Rad Ortiz Jr. Kaylie, talk a little bit about why you like this one.
Well, I think that last out figure of a 78 is pretty competitive coming into this race, and 8-1 on the morning line. Irad Ortiz aboard, and also this horse really improved when she got to stretch out last time out. So I'm thinking, second time stretching out in distance, going long. I think that this one can be pretty dangerous. And also, I mean, you think about it, I know there's not much speed in this race, but I think there's enough for this one to be able to track off the pace, kind of sit a similar trip to what she did last time out.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think we saw a lot of the same things here. It's notable this one finally broke its maiden when it went from sprinting 6 furlongs to routing at a mile and a 16th. So you figure the stretch out is going to continue to work. Again, you have some Curlin pedigree here in terms of being sired by Global Campaign. And yeah, it's interesting. Brian Hernandez Jr. obviously taking over the mount on Anonima makes a lot of sense, but get quite the jockey upgrade. No disrespect to Brian, but to Irad Ortiz Jr. there. 8-1 feels like a very generous price. This horse has done nothing but improve and improve pretty significantly in every start. Actually ran against a couple of really nice horses a couple of races ago, Velvet Vortex and Velvet Devil. Even Atara is a horse I like a little bit as well. So has faced some nice competition down at Fairgrounds. And again, it's been training nicely up at Churchill. That 59-3 work, 2 back, I thought particularly caught my eye. And trainer Joe Sharp is also off to a strong start at the meet. 5 of 7 of his entries have hit the exacta. So this is one at 8-1 that I thought was a little bit interesting. But listen, let's keep moving to race number 2 on the card. And it's our favorite type of race, a maiden special weight. We're going a mile and a 16th for 3-year-old fillies and mares, 3-year-old up fillies and mares, I should say, $120,000 maiden special weight. Kaylie, you and I shared a top pick for trainer Brad Cox. If we get 6-1 on this horse, it feels like a little bit of a gift. I really like this one too. Tell me why you like Saucier.
Yeah, I think it's I don't think it's super likely we'll get 6-1, but still probably gonna get a pretty fair price. This one's getting blinkers on for the first time, and I think stretching out, is really gonna suit her, especially, I think, second start as well. This one should be able to improve, and obviously connections that you have to take pretty seriously. And I thought it was a pretty good price on a horse that can very much, graduate in this type of race. So.
Well, I saw it much the same way. Listen, the blinkers on makes a lot of sense. I think this horse, stretching out with blinkers on, I like that. Just get this horse out up front. And a lot of times when you get a horse out up front, they can get a little bit more distance sometimes rather than, laboring in the back of the pack or even mid-pack. Interestingly enough, this one actually came out of a race losing to a horse, Mindy's Union, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the card, who runs later on Oaks Day. But the other horse, Atara, is a horse that I just mentioned in the very first race as well that she ran against. So she's run against some nice horses in that debut effort, I thought. And Atara came back to win next time out. So definitely like the way this one's form looked at 6-1. Again, that 70 by your speed figure, you figure they're going to move forward. Cox is so good with second start, first time blinkers, the whole 9 yards. I mean, there's not a lot of angles where he's not outstanding. But this one made a lot of sense as a top pick, especially if you get anywhere. You either get like 9-2. I feel like that's a good price on this one. But you went with a little bit of a longer shot in this other race with your value play. The number 11, Stylish Lady for Cherie DeVoe. Our friend Chase Sessoms always calls her the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. But listen, this one with Jose Ortiz aboard, that's a formidable duo.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's Freaky Friday a little bit. You know, you went with the Mott horse as your value play, and I went with the Cherie DeVoe. But yeah, this one definitely caught my eye. I thought 12-1 was more than generous. Ran a respectable race first time out. Obviously not the strongest figure coming in here, but has every right to improve, especially stretching out in distance. So I think this one, you know, could be pretty dangerous. Draws well to drawing to the outside doesn't really concern me. I don't really think this one is going to be that forwardly placed, which is pretty good because there's, I think, a decent amount of speed in this race. So I think this one should get a nice setup, especially stretching out. And Cherie DeVoe, I mean, second time out, hits at a way higher percentage than she does first time out. So
she does. It's true. And you're right. A little bit of a Freaky Friday because I am going to a Bill Mott horse as my value play in this race. But no, the DeVoe horse is a nice one. It's actually coming out of that same race that Saucier is coming out of. So that could end up being a very productive race from down at Fairgrounds. Yeah, I'm going on the inside to a Bill Mott horse, but not jockeyed by Junior Alvarado, rather jockeyed by Taylor Kingsley, who's an apprentice, and you're getting 10 pounds allowance there on this horse, only carrying 108 pounds, which is, just to give you some impression, the number 2, Sun Lightning, is carrying 125 pounds. So, I mean, there's a significant weight gap between what the one is carrying and what everybody else in this field is carrying. This one's making its debut, and it's interesting. You and I actually had the opportunity to see the sire, Volatile, when we were down in Kentucky. And, you know, that horse stands for $12,500. This one sold for $400,000. You know, so this one clearly made an impression at the sales, and the dam has produced some very good horses, particularly Dr. Ardito, who's a horse I think you and I got to know a little bit up here in New York over the years, kind of a good New York bred who's, you know, was a stakes winner. And it just, again, a very productive broodmare in terms of Delightfully So. This one's got a series of very impressive works. You don't see Bill Mott turn out a lot of bullets with his maidens, but this one's got some bullet 5 furlongs, a nice bullet 3 furlong coming out of this over the Churchill track. So as long as this one can get out of the gate, you know, I don't know. I think it's worth a shot from a pedigree play standpoint. We'll see what sort of ride Kingsley gives, but I just thought at 12-1 could be a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's funny. Yours is sired by Volatile, mine's sired by Violence. So definitely both of them, you know, the distance should suit them. And honestly, if this one seems live and is taking money, I might have to place a bet. I know I didn't include this one, but the way that, you know, this horse is working, you have to imagine first time out. I mean, she could hit. So definitely carry way less weight. So.
Yeah, the weight thing's really telling. I mean, the fact you're only carrying 108 pounds compared to, you know, most people are carrying 118, but like I said, some are carrying 125. So it's quite a variation there. But listen, let's go to another maiden special weight race on the card. Race number 3, $120,000 maiden special weight for 3-year-old and up, going 1.1 miles on the turf. I'll kick this one off a little bit, and maybe it's just because my parents listened to classical music on my way to work and my way to school when I was a kid. We listened to Vivaldi's 4 Seasons all the time. My favorite season was spring. But I'm going to go to the number 11 Vivaldi at 5-1 for trainer Chad Brown with Flavian Pratt aboard. This one, really interesting horse. Debuted at Kentucky Downs back in September 2023. And ran against some really nice horses like Thomas Aquinas. It was a horse I always liked a lot that came out of that race. Then stepped up about a month later, a little over a month later, and ran again in maiden special weight company at Keeneland. Something clearly was amiss after that, or kind of in the workouts. Was not seen again for the better part of 18 months and came back to run a very close second at Tampa Bay Downs, going 1.1 miles. Listen, Chad's got a lot of horses in his barn. To hold on to this horse for 18 months when it's not as if, you know, it's a turf horse. It's not as if there's some great, you know, upside, you know, stud value pedigree here or anything like that. And for him not to transfer this horse to another barn, which he could have easily done, I'm sure, or anything like that, for him to hold on to this horse for 18 months, I think speaks to the fact that he clearly sees some talent in this runner. It's a Calumet bred and owned horse. Flavian Pratt now up on the mount for this one, taking over for Antonio Gallardo. I thought this horse showed good speed, got to the lead, and just faded a little bit late, which is what you would expect coming after that long of a layoff. I think second off the bench, I like the tactical speed this one showed last time, could be able to save some ground going into the first turn. So that's my top pick. You ultimately went one even outside of that to the number 12 Moon Channel at 6-1 for Brian Lynch.
Yeah, this one, I mean, does not have the tactical speed that your 11 does. So hopefully is able to find a place and save some ground, but also I think should really improve stretching out to 1.125 miles, has a lot of late kick. I mean, definitely made up a ton of ground last time out. This is now his second start. The second dam actually won, I think, a grade 1 going 1.5 miles. So definitely if you look at the pedigree, this one should really improve. And also I think ran a respectable race first time out and was breaking, not on the far outside, but close to the outside. So I don't think should have that big of an issue with the way that he drew today. But yeah, one that I thought was pretty interesting, at least at 6-1 as well.
Yeah, listen, I think Moon Channel is a good trip play as well. That horse had a very tough maiden trip. I watched that replay, off slow, had to be steadied at one point. So there was definitely some excuses. And the fact that horse still kept doing his running late in the race, I think certainly speaks well. If Flo and Florent Giroux can work out a trip from that 12 post. And again, you might get more speed out of this one next time out because maybe this horse breaks a little bit more cleanly and is able to sit a little bit more of a mid-pack trip, sitting maybe in the 2-path or something like that going into the first turn. So you certainly could get a better trip this time.
Absolutely. You could be very forgiving. Obviously had a ton of issues first time out. So I think this one is probably going to run better this time around.
For a value play, we went to a horse who's had a few bites at the apple, and that's the number 2, Tom Collins. Personally, I prefer that drink. But listen, Shug McGahee horse, jockeyed by Vinny Cheminade. And this one is also second back from a layoff. Talk a little bit about why you like this one at 8-1 on the morning line.
Another one that I think could improve and finally get the job done, stretching out in distance. Certainly the way that he ran last time out kind of signaled that to me that maybe this horse wants a little bit more ground. I think 8-1 is very fair value play here, and obviously top-notch trainer, and has a lot of horses that take a little bit to, get going. He takes his time, and I think this one could honestly is a win contender in my opinion. So I thought was a pretty good value play as well.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at this one's running line, it's just never been able to really stay healthy. It seems like, debuted on the dirt in a race that was meant for the turf. So you can kind of draw a line through that. And then actually ran the first time on the turf against Agate Road, who went on to be a stakes winner on the turf. Yeah. It was a pretty nice horse and was only a half length off of that one. I remember that maiden breaker, by the way. That was a stunning turn of foot by Agate Road that day up at Saratoga. And then ran again in October of 2023 and finished second, but then wasn't seen until July 2024 and ran at Saratoga and Kentucky Downs in August, but then wasn't seen again until March. So this one just hasn't really been able to stay healthy. Now second back, you would imagine there's going to be a little bit of improvement. You mentioned McGahee takes his time with these types, and this one's now 4 years old, as you figured, filled out, hopefully got the health issues behind it. 8-1, very fair price.
Yeah, definitely, and ran really good. First off the layoff, obviously, last time out, so should definitely improve.
Absolutely. Well, listen, let's head to race number 4 on the card, $125,000 optional claimer for 3-year-old fillies, going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. And Freaky Friday is over because you're picking a Bill Mott horse up top, and I'm going to let you talk about Beauty Reigns, who's also my top selection in this race as well.
Yeah, this one seems like, the perfect distance for her, in my opinion. So that really attracted me to her. I think that she was going long for a bit of time. Obviously ran in the Demoiselle, way too long for her. Returned first off the layoff last time out sprinting and ran a good second that day, and obviously broke her maiden sprinting as well. So I think that she should be pretty dangerous, and she drew pretty well here. And I think there's, a decent amount of speed in this race that she should be able to sit a trip as well.
A little bit, as it says in the notes, kind of a slight hop. She didn't really get off that great in that last race coming off the layoff. And so this is a horse that's shown good speed. We really stalked the pace and took over the lead pretty quickly in that maiden breaker, and even showed good speed, early speed, going a little bit longer at Gulfstream Park in that $75,000 optional claimer back in January. So she's got the ability to sit, right behind the pace. I think she's a lot faster than that last race would indicate, or a lot quicker out of the gate than that last race might indicate. And yeah, you'd figure she moves forward from that 72 buyer and she's right there with anybody else in the field. I agree with you. I think she feels like good value. Certainly a horse like Stable Currency at 7-2 for Chris Block. Definitely understand why people would gravitate to that one. Good speed as well, coming off back-to-back wins against N1X competition at the fairgrounds. I do feel like this race maybe came up a little bit tougher, but it really is kind of an interesting development there. That one ran an 86 last time out. You wonder if maybe there's a little bit of a regression for that horse. But listen, let's talk about your value play, which is the number 2 Wondrous for Brendan Walsh and Louis Saez, 2 connections who are absolutely on fire at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, and obviously I don't think that this one's really a big value play at 5-1, but I think could float up a little bit, potentially, just because of that performance last time out in the Cincinnati Trophy. Obviously had lots of issues, just was never involved in the race whatsoever. But I think this one, switching to the dirt and sprinting, I think this one honestly is a little bit interesting. If you look at the pedigree, this one's a half to max field and loved. So I think that, obviously has some pedigree to go off of as well. And I think is pretty interesting at a price with some, dangerous connections, Godolphin and Brendan Walsh. And this one honestly could run well sprinting on the dirt, in my opinion. So, and could float up a little bit as well.
I couldn't agree more, and I have to give myself a little bit of a shout out. Not that I try to do that too often, but this one was actually my long shot of the day when it made its debut, if I'm not mistaken. This one, I believe, was 6-1 or 8-1 on the morning line, got bet down to 3-1. But yeah, I saw that half to Maxfield, and I said, hey, we're betting this one with Brendan Walsh and the Axeman Luan Machado up on the mount. So Machado off for this race. Louis Saez up. And like you said, I think you're gonna get a much better price than 5-1 because people are gonna see that Cincinnati Trophy performance. Probably fade this one a little bit more. If you can get 6-1, 8-1 range, I think it's more than good value for a horse that's clearly got pedigree. Uncle Mo sired out of a Bernardini mare. I mean, that horse is gonna like the dirt just fine, and so should really appreciate the switch over. I'm going to go to a horse that I already mentioned because she showed up in another horse's running lines, and that's the number 9 Mindy's Union for trainer Lindsay Schultz with Colby Hernandez up. This is my value play at 8-1 on the morning line, and this one debuted at Keeneland in last October. Did a little bit of running that day, but ultimately finished 4th in a 10th horse field. Then went to the bench from October until March, came back and broke its maiden off the bench. First time Lasix there with Hernandez up on the mount. Beat Atara in that race, beat a horse Contorted as well. And that was also a race that Saucier and Stylish Lady came out of that we were referring to earlier. And so, like I said, productive race in that regards, I think. And I just think this one took a 76 buyer off the bench. I think has the opportunity to move forward. 8-1, I think you're getting a fair price. Lindsay Schultz, Colby Hernandez. It's not Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz Jr., so it's a chance that those get overlooked. I mean, even right next door, you see a horse like Fogua at 6-1, Steve Asmussen and Flavian Pratt. They're coming off some tougher races, but from a speed figure standpoint, haven't even run a 76 yet. So, I think there's something to like here with Mindy's Union. Maybe a horse that, like yours, gets overlooked a little bit on the board and floats up.
Yeah, this was another one that I took a look at, another good value play in here, and probably is going to get a little bit overlooked, but, fits from a speed figure perspective. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's hit the stakes races, and we're going to be on these for quite a while. And we're going to start with the Edgewood Stakes, a grade 2 going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. Again, you and I see the top pick the same. And trust me, folks, we're going to start diverging these next 2 races pretty dramatically. And you want to stick around for the fireworks because there's going to be some debates. But for this one, we see things the same way. And that is the number 7 Lush Lips for trainer Brendan Walsh, who you and I both, we both just like Brendan quite a bit as a trainer. He's just a really good horseman. He knows how to get his horses ready, particularly on turf and synthetic. You get Flavian Pratt up on the mount, 7-2. This one got nabbed by Nitrogen last time out. I just think this one I love that Pratt's up for this one. I think this one's able to control the pace up front and take him gate to wire. And I just think this is a horse that's going to continue to improve as she runs a little bit more. But, is already wired 2 fields, and I think can easily do it again here.
We saw it exactly the same. I actually had her last time out, and that was like the worst beat ever. But I really think that she can turn the tables on Nitrogen this time around. She's the speed of the group, and obviously Flavian Pratt aboard. So I thought that 7-2. love to bet her at this price compared to Nitrogen at 8-5. So
Yeah, and listen, Nitrogen's a very good horse,
Mhm.
obviously, very accomplished horse. Winner of 3 in a row. Won the Ginger Brew, the Florida Oaks, and the Appalachian. Actually broke her maiden in the Ginger Brew. That was after she finished third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Fillies to Lake Victoria and Mayday Ready. Not a bad group to lose to.
Mhm.
So Nitrogen is not so much that I have any holes in her resume. She's very, very impressive. She's continued to get faster. She's going to be third back in the form cycle. So there's plenty to like there.
Mhm.
For her. It's just a short price on a horse. And then she's got her stablemate to deal with, Vixen as well, 3-1. That one is also a pretty nice horse as well. Won the Here Comes the Bride, won the Swedish Chant down at Gulfstream Park, came up to Keeneland and finished second to her stablemate in the Appalachian. So listen, Mark Cassie's got two very, very good turf runners. You and I are going to take a little bit of a swing with Brendan Walsh to try to beat her with Lush Lips. But listen, let's talk about some value plays. You went to a horse I'll be honest, I didn't really take a look at until after the fact, but a Terradora at 15-1 from Mike Maker could be dangerous for a trainer who knows how to get them ready going long.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this one obviously 15-1 on the morning line, kind of just taking a shot, but definitely has every right to improve. Last two starts were over good turf. So maybe, if the turf is a little bit firmer here, which I mean, I don't really know what it looks like from a weather perspective.
It's anybody's guess at this point. Yeah.
At least we know also that this horse could handle if it was a little bit moist.
Yeah.
And then is obviously made up a decent amount of ground, a ton of ground last time out. So I'm hoping can set a little bit of a similar trip here. There are some horses that are going to be forwardly placed in this race. So should definitely be able to set a nice trip.
Yeah, and listen, this one broke from the 12 post last time out of Keeneland, so it's going to get a much better trip breaking from the inside, and still was almost able to get up. It was dead last in that last race, so it has a very wicked turn of foot when she turns it on, and absolutely, I think is a worthy horse to consider. I went to a horse that is trying turf for the first time, and that's the number 3 Admit at 20-1 for Tom Drury Jr. coming out of the Grade 1 Ashland. I mean, listen, she was just outclassed there and was off the step slow, and it was over before it started in a lot of ways. This is a filly that came in third in the Bourbonnette Oaks to a filly that we're going to talk about a little bit later, Bless the Broken, who you like quite a bit. And so she came out of that race, was second to White Rocks in the Cincinnati Trophy. If you remember that day, White Rocks was able to take him gate to wire and get that really easy win. And so I just thought she's run some really nice races when you go back and look. And she's sired by Blame out of a Warfront mare. I mean, she should like the turf just fine. And I would imagine she's going to take to the grass and do pretty well. So if she can replicate those synthetic speed figures and maybe even move forward on them on the turf, this is, again, a Claiborne owned and bred horse. So I'm going to go with Admit as my top value play at 20-1.
Yeah, definitely. And she does have some siblings that ran really well on the turf as well. So this is an interesting value play. I mean, we both really liked her when she was running at Turfway Park. So
yeah,
definitely am interested to see how she runs on the turf.
Yeah, Lady Lawyer is the former offspring that ran well on the turf here, started her career actually overseas and then came over here and ran well on the turf. And actually was, kind of a grade 3 runner in the ladies sprint at Kentucky Downs. So yeah, very nice horse and yeah, good pedigree there to suggest that she could move forward. But listen, enough of this agreeing and pleasantry. Let's get to the Alysheba Stakes, a grade 2 going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. And this is the showdown between two horses in the same stable. One is named Fierceness, the champ is back, and the other is named Locked, the winner of the Santa Anita Handicap last time out. We're going to ignore the fact that we agree on the value play, and we're going to focus on why you think Fierceness, who I am all the way out on, is going to win this race.
Well, I think, honestly, my first approach was coming off a layoff. I really have a hard time thinking that he's going to go off near 6-5. I think that Locked is going to go off as the favorite. Listen, I really like Locked. I'm so excited to see them go head-to-head. But also, I mean, this is Fierceness. He ran his last 2 figures before – last in the Breeders' Cup Classic, which I thought was one of the best races he ever ran. 111, before that in the Travers, 111. And he doesn't have to be, he's going to be sharp off the layoff. But obviously this horse, I mean, he was going 1.25 miles before, and now 1.1 miles off the layoff. He's going to have no problem, in my opinion. He should be fit. I'm going to take a shot with him. I mean, he's a really great horse, and I think he should be able to sit a nice trip as well, whether he's sharp and he's, up front and he has the lead, or whether he's sitting off a couple in here. I think that he has a pretty good shot.
I completely disagree. And you could say, well, listen, it's because you're a little bit of a jilted lover, because Fierceness was supposed to make his 2025 debut at the Westchester up here at Aqueduct. And then Mike from Queens, who made a big deal of being Mike from Queens on the most recent Netflix show, Race for the Crown, decided he wants to be Mike from Kentucky instead. And so he took the horse down to the Alysheba. Well, you know something, Mike? You stay down in Kentucky. You have fun down there with Fierceness. Listen, maybe he can run 15th in the Kentucky Derby again. Oh, by the way,
wanted him here too.
Don't give it to me. It's all Mike Rapoli who wants to be down there. He wants all the cameras. That's what he wants. You know it. Don't deny it. Listen, the reality is Fierceness last year off the bench, what did he do? Third in the Holy Bull. He stunk that day. Forget about it. He's going to get absolutely cooked on the front end because Hall of Fame's going to want to go. Most Wanted's going to want to go, and even this is Uskar's going to want to go. And Fierceness is going to be out by the 8th pole. I'm all the way out on this horse. He's going to need a race to get under his belt. Do I look forward to seeing him later in the summer at Saratoga? Of course I do. Am I being a little bit bombastic here? Of course I am. But listen, the reality is I do worry in all seriousness about the other speed in the race and the fact that there's speed inside and outside of him. That's kind of the bigger concern, is that you do have Hall of Fame, who I don't like in this race at all because he doesn't run the same off Lasix, but he does show speed off Lasix. And so he's going to show speed. Most Wanted only has one way to go, which is fast. And so he's to the Fierceness's outside. And so Fierceness kind of, again, can sit that trip where he's got in between horses. And I don't know if that's kind of what happened to him in the Holy Bull a little bit. And I don't love that trip for him necessarily. And I just, again, coming off the layoff, if they go maybe a little too fast in those early fractions, could I see him tiring late? Absolutely. And so I'd rather at a short price, and he's going to be a short price even if he floats up a little bit. At a short price, I would rather go with a horse in Locked, who is in fit condition right now and ready to go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't disagree. I'm taking a shot with Fierceness. Yeah, definitely. In the Holy Bull, that was his first start as a 3-year-old. So he's a different horse now. That was like the boy Fierceness, and now he's like man Fierceness. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he matured a lot.
I do know what you're saying.
He should be really fit coming in here, and he's only going a mile and a 16th. I mean, I think that he can be the fastest horse in the race if he wants to, and I think that he can sit off of one or two of them as well.
Listen, he's got the right jockey for it. Johnny Velasquez is as good as anybody at getting a horse to relax on the front end if he's able to get him up there. But I'm just going to take a shot with him
too.
What's that?
Sorry,
no,
but Locked is a monster too. So this is going to be a real race.
He is. And yeah, this is obviously where I'm going with my top pick. And if anything, the mile and a 16th could be a little too short for Locked. I mean, he might like going that mile and a quarter a little bit more, but I think even though it's a short field, he's going to get the right setup in that he's got enough speed in this race signed on with Hall of Fame, Fierceness, and Most Wanted alone that he can sit behind that and be able to make his run coming from off the pace. He's a horse that, you and I have both been very high on for a long time. He was a horse that could have very possibly been a top Derby contender last year, but kind of got derailed early in the season during training and was never able to kind of get into the Derby picture, didn't make his 2024 debut till late, and then ran an allowance race and then won the Cigar Mile, finished second to White Abario down at the Pegasus World Cup, and then comes back and just absolutely crushes the field in the Santa Anita Handicap, which, oh, by the way, the third place finisher, Hit Show, went on to win the Dubai World Cup in his next start. So, very impressive horse. Jose Ortiz remains up for this one. It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, that bottom line, this is going to be, you and I are going to be glued to our live stream that we're doing and watching this. I mean, this is going to be a really fun race.
I'm so excited. I mean, it's going to be nonstop, constant good racing, but this matchup is definitely one of the ones I'm most looking forward to of the whole weekend. So
absolutely. No, for sure. Listen, let's talk a little bit about our value plays. A horse that honestly has really not done much wrong is the number 5 Most Wanted. This is a horse that started his career out with 4 straight wins, including the Grade 3 Oklahoma Derby. And the last 2 times out, came up just short against a horse like Rattle and Roll, who was in very good form at the time. And then last time out to Skippy Longstocking at really Skippy's backyard at Tampa Bay Downs, where he just wins that Challenger Stakes every single year, it seems. And that was also most wanted first race in a little while. So, 7-2, that's a horse. If you want to just do a straight exacta with, if you like Fierceness, I like locked. I'm just going to do a locked most wanted exacta. You'll probably do a Fierceness most wanted exacta. If you're thinking about how are you going to bet this race to make it profitable, that's a horse that could easily be valuable in this regard.
Yeah, this horse is definitely very useful wagering in this race. I think this is another one that could go gate to wire if he so wants to, and also faced Hit Show in the Clark. So definitely think that, last time out, this one, like you said, was facing Skippy in his backyard, and definitely second off the layoff, I think can be pretty dangerous and has enough speed to take them gate to wire, really, if he wants to. He drew to the outside of all of them. And I think that although the 6, this is Uskar, drew, has a bit of an advantage to this one's outside, I think the 5 is a bit faster. So
yeah, I would agree. The 5 is probably a little bit faster and just overall kind of classier in that regard.
Yep.
I mean, this car is a nice horse. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to own the horse, but it just doesn't have the sort of same elite speed, I don't think, that most wanted does. So I do think your 3 pace presences are going to be the 3, 4, and 5 there. And we'll just have to, honestly, that's going to be one of those where I would love to know how they look going into the first turn, because I think that's going to tell you a lot about how this race is going to play out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're going to know kind of how it's going to set up, whether they go too fast or not. And
and whether there's pace pressure, et cetera. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's go from having a slight disagreement to having a major disagreement. And let's go to talk about the La Troyenne. And I'm just going to let you vamp, and I'm going to let you talk about Thorpedo Anna.
You can go first.
She is, you want me to go first? All right, fair enough. I'll go first. You know as well as I do that I have been backing this horse for pretty much every single race outside of the Travers. I've been picking her to win. And I've not seen a horse that can reliably beat her in any way in these first 2 races in the Azerian and the Apple Blossom. And they were short prices both times, but to me, she felt like a free square in any sort of pick 5 sequence that you could just single her and forget about it and move on. This, I think, is the toughest challenge she has faced to this point. And if you're going to try to beat a 2-5 favorite, I feel like this is probably the best chance you have to do it while she's running against her own sex, because you and I were trackside for the double dog dare, and I don't think anybody coming out of that race is going to beat her. And, this is kind of the group that might be able to get her. My logic in this is the Chad Brown horses team up on her a little bit. And you have Randomized, who goes out early, who is fresh, and who, when she breaks, and she almost always breaks, is going to go up front and going to go fast. Randomized is one of those horses that is a bit of, it depends which side of the, heads or tails you end up getting, which side of the coin you end up getting. If you let her go out and get an easy lead, she can take them gate to wire. Now, I don't think Anna's going to do that. The problem is Anna needs to make sure she doesn't get caught into what Idiomatic did in the personal ensign, where she goes and says, listen, I'm going to call your bluff, Randomized. I don't think you're very good, actually, up on the front end, and I'm going to press you the whole way around the track. And what happens is you end up winning the battle, and you put Randomized away, but you lose the war. And Idiomatic lost the war that day in the personal ensign to Raging Sea. Raging Sea can sit a little off the pace. She wasn't able to get that sort of a pace set up in the Breeders' Cup distaff, where she finished second to Thorpedo Anna. I think she gets a little bit more of a pace set up because they're going to try to maybe go at Anna a little bit more in this race, and she can come from off the pace. That's my logic. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if you're going to try to beat a 2-5 favorite, that's how I'm going to try to do it.
I mean, listen, you're a handicapper. You have to try to beat the 2-5 favorite where you see fit. So it's a very respectable argument. Is that the way I saw it? No, I sat here for so long trying to, as much as I love Anna, I tried. I really did try to see a scenario. I mean, Raging Sea couldn't even pick up her feet at the top of the stretch when she was running against Anna in the Breeders' Cup distaff. And Anna did what she just needed to do that day. She's so superior from a buyer speed figure perspective, from just an overall caliber of horse perspective. She runs to the level of what she needs to do. And that's what you see in all of her starts. I mean, Randomized is off a layoff. Yeah, she has great speed. I think she's going to be done pretty early. I think she's going to have Anna sitting right off of her, ready to pounce whenever. And I think randomized is going to tap out. I don't really think that you're going to get this big speed that, we're expecting. I could see maybe the argument of Chad Brown having randomized in here to set it up for Raging C. But if Anna's not going to need to go so fast to catch randomized at the end of the day, I don't really see that happening. And I don't see Raging C closing on Anna. I mean, she looks so defeated, trying to get close to her at any point. No one could even stick a nose in front of Thorpedo Anna in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She got an 100 by her speed figure that day. Superior really to any race that those two have ever run in their lives. So I have a hard time believing that, they're going to step up and do it. And I could eat my words, but I just can't see it. But I do respect, trying to beat a 2-5 favorite, of course.
Yeah, and listen, I think what you have to look at is the fact that Anna's first two races this year were a 95 and a 93. Now, to your point, she kind of does what she needs to do. That she was never really seriously challenged in either of those races. She didn't need to run any faster. Brian wasn't asking her to go for, any harder in that regard. So the figures came back a little lighter, and certainly Raging C and Randomized have both run figures above that in terms of running 96s, 97s at times. So certainly it's been in the ballpark. I think the biggest thing with Raging C is, I think that Breeders' Cup Distaff, it's not that, I agree with your assessment of how she looked in that race. She also was forced to sit a lot closer to the pace that day. If you look at her three previous starts where she won, she was sitting fourth, and she was sitting a little further back. She could let the speed kind of go out in front of her, and she could kind of make a run late. And in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, she had to kind of try to keep up with Anna. That's not really her game. And so the fact that she's got another horse in this race that can go out with Anna, it just allows her, I think, to be in a more natural position. Whether you think Randomized wears her out or not, Raging C, I think, is going to be in a more natural spot for her, sitting probably fourth during this race rather than trying to press a horse that she has no business trying to press in Thorpedo Anna. So it'll just be, again, a race that I can't wait to watch while we're doing our live stream. Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun.
So excited.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be a very exciting day. But listen, let's get back to some turf racing here and go to the Modesty Stakes as the next race on the card. Going a 1 1/8, grade 3 for your fillies and mares. And this one marks the return of She Feels Pretty for Cherie DeVoe. You went with a horse that's already run a couple of big races this year in Saffron Moon for Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. Talk to me a little bit about this horse who I really does feel like he's taken a nice step forward this year to start things off.
Definitely took a nice step forward and ran a good race last time out. I'm trying to beat She Feels Pretty, and I think that this is the horse that you can try to do that with. I mean, She Feels Pretty is a really tough horse, and but she's coming off a layoff, so I'm just kind of playing it at that angle. And I know that she won a grade 1 off a layoff, but that wasn't as long of a layoff as this one is. We haven't seen her since last year, so it's hard to know really the shape that she's coming into this race with in order to get a 1 1/8 right off the layoff. So I thought Saffron Moon was a way to play against her and has a lot of late kick in this race and should be able to sit a nice trip.
No, absolutely. I think if I'm not mistaken, Saffron Moon might have set the track record in one of those races down at Tampa Bay Downs. She was flying. I think it was the Endeavor where she set the track record going a 1 1/16 on the turf at Tampa. So, and she's a very impressive mare who seems to have only gotten better from 5 to 6 and is really, like I said, in very good form for Chad right now. And really was a horse that took a while to mature, and it feels like the light finally went on with her this year. I'm going to swallow some chalk here and go with She Feels Pretty at 6 to 5. Listen, she won off the bench last year in that Hilltop. I know that was only a mile at Pimlico, but that was off a even longer layoff than what she's facing today. So I know she can fire off the bench. She won in debut, which some people will also use as kind of a rationale for a horse being able to fire off the bench. So she's pretty reliable in that regard. She's had some less than ideal trips in some instances when she's come up short in the Belmont Oaks and as well as in the Lake Placid. She lost to a horse like Cinderella's Dream, who I feel like is a phenomenal horse for Charlie Appleby. And then she got the job done in emphatic fashion in the Queen Elizabeth II Cup. and backed it up a couple of months later, shipping out to California and winning the American Oaks. I don't know how great that field was necessarily, but it was still an impressive effort in an 11-horse field going 1.25 miles. So 6-5. Listen, she's a short price. I don't love taking short prices in turf races in particular, but I feel like she's about as reliable of a turf runner as you can get in this spot. But again, I understand the logic behind Saffron Moon and certainly would make a lot of sense as an alternative. Now, you went to a really big value in terms of your value play in this race, which was the number 1 Waves of Mischief for Brendan Walsh and Ben Curtis, who's been riding well of late in Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm just taking a little bit of a shot here. I think breaking from the rail, I mean, this one should be able to save some ground, I'm thinking. Set a nice trip, maybe take a piece. Definitely 1 1/8 is the right distance for her. She won a grade 3 going 1 1/8
Yep.
and, is going that same distance today. Yeah, it's off a layoff, but she also won her debut and that was going 1 1/16. So it does give you some confidence that, she can get that distance. And, I think that she was running very respectable races before you look at the last effort before the layoff, where clearly she was a long shot and she had a lot of issues that day. So I think
she did
at a huge price, stepping back into grade 3 company, she's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, she is. And I think she's a horse I'd be interested in using underneath in like your trifectas sort of thing. And I want to very quickly mention, though, number 2, Give Me Another for Graham Motion. This horse is making the second start off a pretty significant layoff, having run in South Africa, and it was undefeated in South Africa before coming over and running second to Saffron Moon in that Hillsborough. That horse at 7-2 has every right to move forward in this race. Has been training well for Graham. So Give Me Another is a horse, if She Feels Pretty isn't a single, that's a horse I'm absolutely going to be using depending on how I want to play this overall sequence. But that's, like I said, just another really nice horse that I wanted to mention. Then the number 4, Pinup Betty, is my value play, maybe a little bit more of an underneath play. This is a horse that's 7 for 14 in the exacta and has run some pretty nice races and finished second behind Waves of Mischief in that pucker up and is coming off a little bit of a layoff, admittedly. Hasn't run since November. But Mike Maker going longer on the turf. I mean, these are usually angles I like to play. And this one can sit a few different types of trips. It has gone to the front when the situation dictates. It can also come from off the pace. So this one's never really run a bad race. And it's kind of incrementally gotten faster over her career. I mean, ran 4th in that Queen Elizabeth II Cup in October at Keeneland last 2 back. And that was the race She Feels Pretty won by 6 lengths. She was basically in a blanket photo for second that day. So, she was right there with the other horses in the race. So is she as good enough as She Feels Pretty? Give me another Saffron Moon. Maybe not, but another horse I'd be including in my vertical gimmicks in this spot.
Yeah, that one's very interesting. I think that this is actually I know that there's a heavy favorite in here and She Feels Pretty. That's obviously she's a really, really nice horse, but there's a lot in here that are pretty interesting. I think the number 3 as well, that Chad Brown horse, I know, coming in off the layoff as well, but I mean, has really good speed. And I think
Sagesta,
could be pretty dangerous. So
I agree. I like that horse a lot. I've always liked, I picked her a couple of times in the past. I've always liked her when she runs. So she's a good one. Yeah, that's a very good race. It's a very fun race, this Modesty. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as well. Let's go to the 8 Bells, grade 2, going 7 furlongs on the dirt. And this one is, again, a really interesting race. I feel like it's kind of wide open. And you have your morning line favorite is, if I'm not mistaken, number 12, Eclatant for trainer Brad Cox. This is a horse coming off a win in the Forward Gal. Really, the only bad effort, wasn't even that bad necessarily, was a 3rd place finish against Good Cheer and Quiet Side in the Goldenrod. Talk about 2 fillies that there's no harm in losing to. This one's run against some really good company, and she's your top pick, Kaylie.
Yeah, I think that this one drew really well to the outside here. And I think honestly should be able to sit a nice trip, has really good speed. And honestly, this is the perfect distance for her. So she looked really dangerous to me here. And, that's why I landed on her as my top pick. But this is another race that I viewed as kind of wide open. I mean, there's a lot in here that are interesting at some big prices. Even my value play, I consider to be a win contender. So definitely a jam-packed race. And your top pick as well is pretty dangerous. But I just like the way that this one drew in Eclatant. And I think that this is the right distance for her as well.
No, she drew extremely well to the far outside, I think, in this race. And so I definitely like where she's at. And she's run against, very good horses. She's never lost going one turn. So, a lot to like there. I ultimately went with Verity, who's the second choice at 3-1 on the morning line for Owen Hardy and Vinny Cheminade. This is a Godolphin homebred and sired by Nyquist out of a Bernardini mare. And what I like about this horse is her versatility more than anything else. She's won at 6, 6.5, and 7 furlongs. So she's done it a few different ways. And you look at each of those races, and they were all a little bit different. In one of those races, she was sitting really towards the back of the field or kind of mid-pack. And another one of those races, she was kind of tracking. Last time out in the Grade 2 Beaumont, where she beat Eclatant's stablemate Stunner, she was stalking the pace there. So she could do a couple of different things. It gives Vinny Cheminade a lot of versatility, I feel like, with regards to how does he want to ride this horse. He can kind of play the break a little bit, see where she is. Now, drawing a little further inside is a little bit of a disadvantage in that regard, but I do think she's certainly an ascending filly who has really never taken a step back in that regard after breaking her maiden and was just a very close second to Faubois, who's actually one of the top choices in one of the earlier races on the card. So, again, interesting horse at 3-1, a wide open race. I'm going to talk a little bit about my value play before we get to yours, but I ultimately went to the number 9 Bourbon Memory at 8-1 for trainer Brendan Walsh. I know we're saying that name a lot, but listen, Brendan's been so hot, and when his barn heats up, you just want to play it all the time. But Bourbon Memory is undefeated, a perfect 4 for 4. She's won going 6, 6.5, and a mile, actually. Now, that mile came with Lasix, but she won that race by 10 1/4 lengths. So it was very impressive to see. And I just think that, she's one that is, or I guess she finished ahead of the third place finisher, I should say, by 10 1/4 lengths. It was a dead heat between her and Foxtastic. But, was still able to win going a mile. She can win coming from off the pace. She can go gate to wire. I just think she's kind of, she was able to win that Serena Song last time out and did it, in a very impressive fashion coming from a little off the pace. So 8-1, that was ultimately going to be my top play for a horse that I thought was training well.
Yeah, definitely. And the surface change. I mean, we've seen obviously horses from Turfway translates well over here.
Yeah.
So this one, definitely stuck out as well. I went a little bit different for my value play. I went to a Dwayne Lucas filly.
But you've liked this filly for a while. You've had your eye on her for a bit.
Yeah, I even was trying. I mean, I was trying to pick her underneath. I think I had her like 4th in the fantasy. Clearly, probably a bit too long for her. I think sprinting is going to suit her. I mean, the only time that we've seen her sprint was when she was just 2 years old.
Well,
so
when she was a maiden, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, now, honestly, she broke her maiden going a mile. And cutting back to the sprinting distance, she should be super fit, and she draws well to the inside a little bit. I like the way that she drew, so I'm definitely going to be considering her a pretty good value play in here underneath, either of our top choices. But another filly that I kind of considered using is the number 11 Look Forward. She ran a really good race at this distance, 7 furlongs, and also is another one that seems better sprinting and, gets Rispoli aboard for the first time as well. So honestly, I would have the number 11, although I went to the number 3 as a value play more so, and obviously exactas and tries. I mean, the number 11 is one that I would have on my tickets, honestly.
And it's been working very well for McCarthy, a 46-4 workout on April 26th. I mean, so this one, and you look at the horses she's run against: Lacara, Take Charge Milady, Muhima, Quiet Side, 5G, Tenma. This horse she's run against some serious horses, and I agree with you. The cutback makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's definitely going on my pick 5 or my pick 6 ticket, whatever I end up playing. She could be pretty dangerous, and you might get her at a good price too.
Very good. Well, listen, enough disagreement let's just copy and paste each other's picks, and that's what we did in race number 10, the Unbridled Sydney. And it's funny, we were talking about doing this episode together, and I said, I got the turf sprints. I'm always so, I don't ever know what to do. And then when you sent me your picks, we had the same 2 picks. I couldn't believe it because turf sprints are always so hard to handicap, I think. But we both ended up on Epona's Hope at 6-1 for Tyler Surf with Joel Rosario up on the mount. And I think you can do a lot worse than picking Joel Rosario in a turf sprint. I mean, that's kind of what he does best. He knows how to get those horses home in these types of races. But talk a little bit about what you liked about Epona's Hope in this race.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also this one is in the best form that she's ever been in. So
Yeah.
I thought that she also drew well to the outside of AG Bullet. Obviously, that's your heavy favorite who is superior from a buyer speed figure perspective, but is coming in here off of a layoff. So, maybe she doesn't fire. I landed on the number 5. I think that that's a really good play at 6-1, and she has really good speed and is coming in the best form that she's ever been in. So
I hear you on that. And listen, she is AG Bullet at 8-5. I get it. But in general, I always fade West Coast turf horses coming east. I just at a short price. Now you give me a bomb. Sure. I'll consider that, a horse at a big price. The 2 times she's been in Kentucky, she's missed the board. Now the people would say, well, listen, those were both going a mile against really tough company. It's absolutely true. They were going longer against tougher company for sure. We've not seen her sprinting in Kentucky yet. But the combination of the layoff, now she has been at Keeneland for a little while. She's been training here in Kentucky, which I think is positive to see that she's been here for a minute, but still, I just always worry about that. And listen, the same thing could be said true, of the number 9, Queen Maxima, who's your 2-1 second choice for Jeff Mullins, another one that's coming east for the first time and really has been better, I think, running down on the downhill, which is usually horses that like to go maybe a little bit longer than that 5.5. And I don't know if she's necessarily got the speed for the 5.5 furlong sprints, although drew very well to the outside. But again, that's kind of why I think maybe we're both fading those 2 horses.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that she's as fast as the number 5, but definitely, I mean, our value play, the number 7, the more that I look at her, she's another win contender, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, obviously has to improve a little bit, but has every right to do so. Last start was the first time that we had seen her in almost a year, and she won. So I think honestly she should improve off of that. And John Ortiz, I mean, with Saez aboard on the turf, I mean, 12-1 on the morning line, this one might be a pretty sneaky play, and I think should improve off of that last effort right off the layoff. So
yeah, listen, I mean, this is a horse that won the Untappable Stakes at Kentucky Downs going 6.5 furlongs at one point. So, I mean, I know those last 3 people are going to see with Lasix, but she's won off Lasix before. She's won big races off Lasix before. And she's won, it feels like maybe John figured out what she does best, which is going 5.5 and, kind of shortening her up, which is how she started her career. And then he started stretching her out, going a little bit longer. And I think shortening back up to 5.5 makes sense. There should be a fair amount of pace for her to run into in this race. You get Louis Saez up on the mount. I think, at 12-1, there's plenty to like. Even if you don't think this one's a win contender, I'd certainly include this one underneath because I think she's going to become running late and maybe nab some of these other horses getting close to the wire. Well, let's go to the headliner, Kaylie, a race that you and I have been talking about for months. And we have plenty about this race on the YouTube channel. So we're not going to belabor the points on this, because you can listen to our Kentucky Oaks preview, which we have up on the channel as well. But you and I both landed on the same horse, Quiet Side. She's one that you have liked, and quite frankly, we both liked since we saw her last year at Saratoga. And we think today's going to be the day for her to get the job done at the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly gotten the job done in her last 2 starts. I love this filly. She definitely, I mean, listen, good cheer. You can't, the conversation has to start with her. She's a very short price on the morning line. Well, I have her on my pick 5s, my pick 6s. Of course, I don't want to lose to that horse. I understand, there's a very good chance that Good Cheer runs to the to what she has to do, similar to what we were talking about with Thorpedo Anna, and that, that's why maybe she doesn't have an edge by her speed figure wise. But in terms of the way that I'm playing this individually, I mean, I'm going to play Quiet Side to win. She drew really well here. She's 8-1 on the morning line. Her last 2 starts were the only ones with Jose Ortiz aboard, and, he won. And that's honestly, it seems like this filly's really starting to put the pieces together, and certainly has in her last 2, and comes into this off the same figure that Good Cheer got last time out. So I think that she's going to be very dangerous. She just continues to improve. And I mean, I think even stretching out in distance is really going to suit her as well. So excited.
Yeah, excited here as well. And yeah, listen, Good Cheer, you're right. We have to start the conversation there. She's undefeated. I get it. She's also faced incredibly short fields throughout her career. That's something to keep in mind. She's never faced a field anywhere near this size. And has had some tough trips, even in short fields at times. 4-horse race, a couple races back, she, got boxed in, and it was a little bit of group tactics trying to keep her in. And once she got clear, she was able to draw off just fine. But still, on the speed figures, she's not that superior to everybody else in the field that she should be your 6-5 morning line favorite. And even early wagering has her, I think, at 3-2 right now. So like even the public's kind of backing her at a really strong rate. I just, I know the public really likes Lucara. You and I are both out on Lucara. And for similar reasons, the 2 wins she's got, the Ashland and that race out of Tampa Bay Downs, the Suncoast, she got easy leads. And she's not going to get an easy lead on Friday because 5G is going to hound her. Quiet Side's going to hound her. Simply Joking's going to hound her on the inside. Mark Cassie can say all he wants that we're going to go to the lead and see who comes. Well, Mark, a lot of people are going to come. And then your horse is going to fold because she almost lost to Take Charge Milady at 1 16th. So what's going to happen going 9 furlongs if you're going to go that fast? And I also didn't love that 46-second workout leading up to this race. I think that was too fast of a work, in my opinion, leading up to that race. But I don't train horses, so maybe I'm wrong.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said. And honestly, I think 5G to her outside is a huge threat to Lucara. So I think, Quiet Side's going to sit a really nice trip right off of the 2 of them, let them wear each other out, and it's going to set right up for her. So
I agree. But listen, let's talk about some value plays. If there's plenty of rain in the forecast over the next few days in Kentucky. Fits and starts. I mean, the old saying is if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. That's very true in Louisville and that region. So there's going to be some weather. There's going to be some niceness. But if there is weather, and it is even a good track or let alone a muddy track, Bless the Broken, your value play has to move up in everybody's eyes.
Yeah, she absolutely should, especially like you said, if we get rain. But even if we don't, I mean, she's a filly that constantly just runs honestly, and I think really improved in her last 3 starts. Those are very respectable races coming into the Oaks. So I think that she's a very live long shot here. I think if it rains, she's going to end up taking a bit of money. She was training lights out at Keeneland before heading to Churchill, and I think that she's improving, she's growing, and I think stretching back out in distance. I mean, the first time that she ever got to do that was in the Demoiselle. I mean, that was a pretty serious race that she was running in, and she got even better this year. So now getting to stretch out when she's been improving, and she's going to be picking up pieces. So I happen to really like her as a bit of a long shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, historically, you want to find a long shot in the Kentucky Oaks. Only 2 of the last 12 winners of the Oaks since they instituted the point system have been your post-time favorite. Untappable and Malathat. That's it. That's the list. So that is a very formidable group. And only 2 of the 12, only 6 of 12 favorites have even hit the trifecta. So you definitely want to try to get some bombs in here. I'm going to go with one early on. A filly you and I got to see up close when we interviewed Safi Joseph Jr. about this runner. She is a big filly. She's got a powerful hind end on her. She looks like she's going to want to go a lot longer. And I think if she's able to get away mid-pack, and Safi even said this, he goes, on the numbers, she's not fast enough. But if she can improve a little bit, and if she can sit mid-pack and not come running from the back, which she showed much better speed last time out in the Gazelle, but she's not going to get to the front here. But if she can sit mid-pack on the rail, save ground, everybody starts tiring themselves out. she's one that's only going to keep getting stronger late in the race. And Safi even said the real goal is the grade 1 Alabama later this summer, because he thinks at 1.25 miles, that's going to be when she's going to be at her best.
Yeah, definitely. This is a really great value play. Definitely one that I'm going to be including in some supers and maybe even tries. I mean, she definitely catches your eye just looking at those last 2 races. One where she came and she made up ground where really it was a speed favoring track that day. She was able to make up ground in the Virginia Oaks. And then obviously in the Gazelle, like you said, was more forwardly placed and really almost held off Ballerina d'Oro. So I think that she could be pretty dangerous, and all she has to do is just get a little bit faster. But like you said, if she sits a nice trip from mid-pack, I mean, she's going to be coming and making up pieces at the end. And I think that, the distance really suits her as well. We saw her in person. She was pretty impressive, and I think she wants every inch of ground. So she is pretty interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But listen, you have the Kentucky Oaks, and then guess what? You still got 2 more races. All right, well, let's go to race number 12. $80,000 optional claimer for 3-year-olds and up, going 1 mile on the dirt. This is a really fun race. Your top pick is a horse that made me a lot of money last year when he won the Wood Memorial. That was my top pick, Resilience. 7-2, hasn't been seen since that Belmont Stakes, but Belmont brings him back here in this spot. Junior Alvarado up. Listen, he's a nice horse. He's a really nice horse. I like Resilience quite a bit. I wasn't sure how he was going to fire off the bench, which is why I ended up playing against him. You ultimately went to him as your top pick, though, and I don't blame you because he's got the class in this field.
Yeah, he really does. And I mean, another Mott horse on the card that is working lights out. I mean, I have to expand my tab to see further into the work tab. All I see are bullets. I think I'm like 6 in or 5 in, and they're all bullets. So it seems like he's really been working lights out leading up to this return. Obviously, it is a question how he's going to fire if he is a little bit too fresh off the layoff. But I mean, he is only going 1 mile here. So not really that much of a concern when this horse was going 1.25 miles before. Do I think that this horse should be going 1.25 miles? Not necessarily. Definitely 1.125 miles. But I mean, 1 mile off the layoff should suit him well. And, 7-2, pretty good price.
Yeah, listen, we should say he gets Lasix again. The only other time he got Lasix was breaking his maiden, where he easily won going 1 mile and a 16th at Gulfstream Park. And so that was an impressive effort. And then he kind of comes back to run what was actually a pretty solid 4th, but kind of a sneaky good trip behind Sierra Leone, Track Phantom, and Catching Freedom in that Risen Star, and then comes back to win the Wood Memorial the following race. And ran then a very good 6th place, I thought, in the Kentucky Derby as well. So, it was a nice horse. And then, just the Belmont was a little too much, and Bill shut him down. And, obviously he's bringing him back here. Listen, he makes a lot of sense. He's going to be on my tickets. I don't want to get beat by him, that's for sure. I ultimately went to a horse who has been running well and kind of an interesting horse. The thing was, I didn't feel confident enough in Resilience to pick him as my top choice. But I didn't necessarily love anyone else in this race. Like Into Pleasure, maybe is a little bit more underneath. I don't know if this horse, won a $75,000 optional claimer going 7 furlongs. I don't know if this horse wants 1 mile necessarily. And then Moonlight, who I ultimately went to, can get the distance. Won him at 1 mile and a 16th last time out. Might actually be a slightly better turf horse, but that 92 is kind of a little bit of an anomaly. Has run a 90 speed figure before, interestingly enough, another off-turf race at Belmont at Aqueduct. Both of those were over fast tracks, though, so it's not like he was a sloppy sealed track type of a runner. In fact, he's 0 for 3 over a wet track. He's 2 for 5 winning over a fast track. So I don't know. I just thought he was a little bit interesting at a big price. Jose Ortiz stays aboard. Jose's been riding so well. I just thought this one, maybe can sit a little bit, should get a little bit more of a pace setup and might appreciate the 1-turn mile setup and configuration at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely the other horse that I would have on my ticket in terms of a win candidate here, and certainly a really good price. I mean, you look back, even that mile race at Churchill Downs, definitely last year going 1 mile got an 82, which very much fits here. Gets Jose Ortiz aboard again and coming off his best effort yet last time out. So this one did look pretty dangerous to me as well.
Yeah, and that effort at Churchill Downs going a mile came against Hall of Fame, who we
Yeah.
talked about earlier is running in the Alysheba. So it was running against very good company that day. Now, our value play is the number 3 over an Ollie, 12-1 for Alstall Jr. and Irad Ortiz Jr. And this one's coming off a little bit of a layoff as well. And, has done a lot. I mean, you talk about a muddied form. This horse has run on dirt, on turf, on synthetic, off turf races, 5.5 furlongs, a mile and a 16th. Kind of everything in between. I think going a mile is going to be just fine for this horse. In fact, one going a mile at Saratoga out of the Wilson chute in an off-turf race and actually ran maybe his best race. It kind of ran a 92 buyer, but then one over a sloppy track, 2 back, going 6 furlongs. He's never run over a dry track. So if it's dry, we'll see how he ends up running. But I still think he's got some talent, and Irad's up on the mount.
Yeah, definitely talk about some form that's all over the place, but has good speed. And I think obviously the mile should suit him. Like you said, ran really well in the slop at Saratoga going a mile, got a 92 and should be able to sit a nice trip here. So I think 12-1 might as well take a shot underneath some of these others. But for me, I mean, the win contenders, it's really the 5 and the 7 here, our 2 top picks. But our 3 is a good one to include in tries for sure, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, let's close things out. Last race on the card, $120,000 maiden special weight for 3-year-old fillies, going 7 furlongs on the dirt. And you went to a horse who you hope your bank account sounds like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And that is the number 10, cha-ching, for Eddie Keneally and Ben Curtis up on the mount, 7-2 on the morning line. And interestingly enough, my top pick is your value play actually in this particular race. But listen, talk a little bit about this Eddie Keneally runner who has nearly gotten the job done the last 2 times out and has just come up a little bit short, but managed to do it 2 different ways and show some versatility.
Yeah, definitely. And was setting a fast pace last time out at Keeneland. And definitely, I think, this race, it's 7 furlong maiden special weight. There's a lot of first time starters in here. I'm thinking I'm going to land on a horse that's, making now her 3rd career start, has really good speed and drew to the outside of a lot of other horses in here, has the best speed towards the outside. At least is reliable. And like you said, almost got the job done last time. So I think honestly, this one fits really well. And I think has a really good shot at breaking her maiden in this race.
Yeah, and you talk about 2 connections who are firing on all cylinders. Eddie Keneally, a perfect 2 for 2 with his entries at Churchill Downs. Ben Curtis has won 2 of his 4 races and finished 2nd in another. So again, these are really good connections right now. My value play is Teti Aurora, and that is the number 8 horse for trainer Phil Bauer with Jose Ortiz up on the mount. And I just like this horse quite a bit. Making the first start, admittedly, I'm not entirely sure if Vacomas always like to go 7 furlongs in debut, but I thought the Dam was a little bit interesting here as she has produced some runners before, and none of them necessarily won in debut, but she's produced some winners. I mean, her offspring have won 25% of their races. So she's produced some horses that know how to win. Vacomas are particularly precocious first time out. We know this. And this horse has been training lights out for Bauer, who knows how to get horses ready. And, this horse is, 47-2, 59 flat, 59-1 gate work, 47-3. I mean, this horse is running well in the morning. We'll see if it translates to the afternoon, but 8-1, I think, hey, might as well close out with a little bit of a bomb in the last race.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this one I think is going to be pretty live. Has Jose Ortiz aboard. Obviously, the work tab looks really, really strong. And the Vacomas, I mean, they're pretty precocious and obviously pretty fast. So this one should be dangerous and clearly looks like it has some speed coming into this race as well. So should be an interesting first-time starter. I think, honestly, out of all the first-time starters, this one's probably most likely to run well. So looks a little interesting to me as well.
I think so. I think out of the first time starters, this is the one you want to have. Now, horse that's my value play is the second time starters, Agia Marina, the number 6 horse at 12-1. This horse is getting a little bit of a makeover package. Debuted back in September in 2024 at Delaware Park for Michael Matz, actually. Did absolutely no running, was very fractious at the gate, and had just all sorts of problems. and the horse hasn't run since. Went to Brendan Walsh's barn. Irad Ortiz Jr. is now up on the mount. This horse is getting Lasix for the first time. Blinkers are getting put on. This horse has had some nice works for quite a while leading up to this race for Brendan. This horse was actually down in Florida with him, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Wasn't a horse that was at Turfway or in that string. Kind of was in his number one string down at Florida. And I wonder if, depending on her progress, if he had thought about maybe debuting her down there or running her, for his barn for the first time down there. Mm-hmm. But ultimately comes up here, has been working nicely at Keeneland, 12-1 on the morning line. I just think this one, again, you can almost toss that first effort. Now you're getting a little bit of a makeover package. Again, first time Lasix, first time blinkers, first time in a new barn. And we're going 7 furlongs for a quality road out of a Ghost Sapper mare. This one will cost $675,000 at sale. So there's clearly some expectations here. And I just thought a 12-1 presented some interesting value.
Really interesting. You can definitely toss that effort, and clearly had some pretty high hopes looking at the sales price, but definitely even with the pedigree has a little bit of class coming in here, and I think is really interesting. You can completely toss that effort, and like you said, is really getting a complete makeover package coming in here. So
that is the angle I love to play. I love a good makeover package on these horses. Listen, Kaylie, an hour 15 minutes, pretty good for 13 races. That's not so bad. We gave the folks at home a lot of picks to consider. And you and I are going to have a very busy Oaks Friday into Derby Saturday. Let the folks know why we're going to be so busy and what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a 24-hour live stream, which is going to be
a lot of fun.
I'm so excited. So going to start at noon on Oaks Day, right?
I hope so. Yes, that's the plan.
So very excited about that. Obviously, it won't be us for a full 24 hours on the stream, but we have some friends helping us out hosting. Yeah. So really excited.
We do. No, you definitely want to tune in for a couple of reasons. One, 24-hour live stream starting Oaks Day Friday at noon, going through Derby Day at noon on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Kaylie and I are going to be on for a lot of it. I'll probably be on for a little bit more because I'm insane and I like doing this sort of thing. So I'll probably sleep for about 3 or 4 hours. But we do have a couple of friends from out on the West Coast who are going to take over early in the morning, Brian Anderson and Jackson Muniz. But listen, it's not just even going to be us. Acacia Clement's going to join us. Maggie Wolfendale is going to join us. Sarah El Badwi is going to join us. Chris Griffin is going to join us, but not just NYRA people. Michelle Yu from out in California is going to join us. Jess Paquette from Parks is going to join us. You got John Dooley, the track announcer at Fairgrounds in Horseshoe, Indianapolis, is going to join us. Got a lot of people from across the industry who are going to be coming on. We got some of our good friends, Barry Spears, Chase Sessoms, Mark Capitan. We got a lot of good people from different, walks of life. We got Jessica Tugwell, who's a great pedigree expert. Can't wait for you and her just to nerd out for about 3 hours on it as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But listen, the really cool part, we're raising money for charity as well. Mm-hmm. We're raising money for the Thoroughbred Aftercare Association and Alliance, I should say, the TAA. That really does a lot for off-track thoroughbreds and make sure that they have a good second home after their time on the track is over. So we're going to be highlighting a lot of different organizations, raising money. And as much as I gave Mike Rapoli a hard time, I hope you stick around till the end because he is matching all donations up to $50,000 over the weekend. And so any money we raise will be matched by Mike Rapoli. That's pretty cool. And so we got to give him a lot of credit for that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Fun 24 hours, and we're going to have a little counter at the bottom tracker how many Mountain Dews I drink during that 24 hours to stay awake.
Oh, God. Yeah, so at least, we're going to look really crazy, but we're doing it for a really good cause.
We are indeed. Now, listen, make sure to press that like and subscribe button on NYRA Bets YouTube. Make sure to use that Derby code 20 or the promo code Derby25 to get that $200 deposit match bonus and a free $25 deposited to your account immediately. All right. For Kaylie Shapiro, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races, and reminding you, my friends, it is now
post time.